Today I'd like to talk about my hopes for Neverending Nightmares and this Kickstarter. So certainly I mentioned that I hope to use this Kickstarter to launch a new horror game studio. I'd like to keep making horror games, and that's sort of where I see Infinitap Games going, but now that I think about it, I probably should have chosen a scarier name than Infinitap Games, but maybe we'll just have a really scary looking logo or something. But I really like making horror games. I don't think there's enough developers making it, and I think because of my experiences with psychological horror, I'm pretty uniquely suited to making some interesting horror experiences. But my hopes for the game and this Kickstarter are actually much more ambitious, perhaps too lofty, but I would really like to use this game to, and of course the corresponding developer diaries, to remove some of the stigma associated with mental illness. Because if you tell someone, oh, I have depression, maybe you get funny looks. People are like, ooh, there's something wrong with that person. And, or you don't get the level of understanding of what depression is. Like you say, oh, I'm depressed. Then a lot of people are like, well, just cheer up. And you're like, no, you don't understand. The reason I have depression is because I can't just cheer up. That's what the illness is. But then you look at something like asthma, which I have asthma, I can say, oh, I have asthma, and everyone's like, oh, okay, whatever. But, I have OCD or I have depression, and you get the dirty look so that people don't understand, and it's a terrible shame because, specifically with OCD, I was talking to my shrink about this, there's strong evidence that supports it's sort of a brain chemistry or sort of a genetic condition. So, I was born with OCD. And of course I was born with asthma. So neither is my fault, but one is very easy to talk about, very socially acceptable, and the other, it's difficult. I've made, 40-some developer diaries, given presentations and talked to PAX and, even in China about having obsessive compulsive disorder and making video games, and it's still hard for me. It's still hard for me to open up again, I think, because the stigma is there. But I would like to use Neverending Nightmares and, of course, these videos as sort of a springboard to start a discussion about mental illness, to help people understand what those of us who suffer from mental illness go through. Because it's very difficult, and it's kind of scary and terrifying to sort of suffer in silence, to not be able to tell people or adequately communicate what's going on. And it sucks to almost be ashamed of part of who you are. You see people, like breast cancer survivor pins or something, and it's that they don't have something like that, for depression or obsessive compulsive disorder, where you can say, I had this illness and I'm fighting it, or I'm beating it, and get a pat on the back. And I would agree if you're thinking like, oh, Matt is so overly ambitious. How can one person do all that? How can, a horror game be this important? But the thing is, you don't know until you try. If no one is trying to remove the stigma of mental illness, then of course nothing is going to change. But I've found just opening up about my mental illness and my struggles has been, of course, liberating for me, although difficult, but it's also has enabled, I think, people who maybe wouldn't have shared their experience to really open up to me. And I really thank everyone who's shared the experience. I get a lot of YouTube comments or people talking through Kickstarter or whatever. I get a lot of that, and it really means a lot to me, and hopefully I can, I do try and offer advice, and like at Kickstarter, sorry, at PAX I had a long conversation with the woman about, medications and what worked for me and which treatments worked for me, and I know I've mentioned some books on various things like Getting Control by Lee Bear or something like that, which the CBT there really helped me. And the thing is, without this dialogue, I can't reach out to people, and I can't say, hey, this is something that's really helped me, or hey, this is really important, or if there's still that stigma, people are afraid to talk about it. That's sort of a missed opportunity to learn. So I really hope that through Neverending Nightmares, if we get successfully funded, I can really help to, or at least I can work towards removing the stigma associated with mental illness, and I really hope that the game can do that. So, as always, thank you for your support, and hopefully I can pull it off and make a game that's really important and really helps those of us who do suffer from mental illness.